Good evening, everybody. Happy Saturday evening. At least I think it's Saturday at this point. Given all the recent holidays, it's kind of hard to keep track of days. In any event, I wanted to share with you guys the topic of today, which is essentially we want to talk about what happens when you need to travel, but your case is delayed or you haven't even started an immigration case, but due to an emergency or different exigent circumstances, you need to speed things up. So we can divide this into, I guess, three sections. So let's talk about if you have a pending case to try to come into the United States, whether it's a tourist visa, a work visa, a family petition, but like recently the consulates were so backed up or closed due to COVID, but you need to travel. So what can you do in that context? Honestly, the best approach is to then file an emergency request or humanitarian request to give you an interview or give you an opportunity to present the circumstances of your emergency to the embassy or nearest consulate. You can contact them directly. You can have your attorney contact them. It's not necessarily a slam dunk, meaning that it's not necessarily something that they will consider 100%. They will consider the facts with regards to your emergency to determine how exigent the circumstances are. Unfortunately, what may be a very serious emergency to you may not necessarily be that to some of these officers. So you need to make sure that you have proof, that you have as much evidence as possible to document your emergency or your exigent circumstance that requires them to speed up your case or basically move you to the front of the line so that you can complete your case. Okay, that's been happening a lot over the last few months due to the international pandemic, due to COVID-19. And it's very possible. I've seen some consulates or some embassies are a little more lenient than others with regards to considering emergencies. Others are a little tougher. It just depends. Each embassy has its own rules, so you need to make sure that you kind of see where the trends are with regards to the embassy that you're going to try to contact. But it is totally possible to show them that you're having an emergency and need to expedite things, even if your consulate or embassy is currently not taking interviews. Now, they've been doing a phase out where they slowly but surely have been reopening to interviews and things like that. But not every embassy remains open. Not every embassy is handling certain types of cases. So you need to try to be as aggressive as possible to move up your case if you're having an emergency or exigent circumstance. Now, let's assume that you are trying to start a case and you're abroad, or you have, unfortunately, a family member that passed away or is very ill, and you don't have anything necessarily that is helping you at the time. So the best thing that you can do at that point would be to then file a humanitarian request. Essentially, you file a request, a written letter directly with the embassy showing them the reasons why you need to travel. If you're coming for a funeral, if you're coming for, unfortunately, a family member is very ill. Some cases, great things too, graduations or little things like that, although they're not as lenient with those, but it's still something you can show, but you need to document those. Letters from doctors, letters from hospitals, itineraries with regards to funeral homes, graduation invitations, things like that. You can write them directly and you can simply go and request an interview for a humanitarian request for a parole or, humanitarian visa to enter the country under those exigent circumstances. Now, let's talk about the third stage. If you are in the United States and you're trying to travel to another country, but your status only allows you to request a travel permit to leave the country, meaning you have DACA, TPS, something like that, then your best approach is then to request an emergency appointment with your local USCIS office to request an emergency parole, advanced parole, be granted to you so that you can travel abroad. Same set of circumstances. If you have family back home in your country or in your home country, that passed away or severely ill, it's a legal concern. You can take those documents of proof of what's happening to your local USCIS office and ask them to then issue an emergency parole so that you can advance parole so that you can travel. Generally, the proper procedure is to file those requests with immigration, but that takes months. So you don't have that time. So the best approach is to then go to your local USCIS office and then request them to expedite an advance parole for you in that case. So those are the basic ways that you can travel due to emergencies, whether into the United States or outside of the United States, if your status requires that you have that type of permit. And again, it's not necessarily something super easy. It's you need to make sure that you have documentation. If you're not sure about how to present it, be sure to seek legal help. Go to a lawyer that can help you do this. But in any event, those are, in summary, the things that you can do with that regard. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave it down in the comments. We'll be sure to respond to any questions or concerns that you may have. Otherwise, we wish you an excellent night, great weekend, and we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night.